Hey there. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the topic of maternal ambivalence. Our guest today is Dr. Margo Lowy. She is a psychotherapist specializing in mothering. She's the author of the book Maternal Ambivalence: The Loving Moments and Bitter Truths of Motherhood. She holds a doctorate from the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, where she researched maternal ambivalence. Dr. Lowy is the author of a previous academic book, The Maternal Experience: Encounters with Ambivalence and Love, and she has spoken about maternal ambivalence at universities and in media interviews worldwide. She is a columnist for Psychology Today, a member of PEN America, and a former advisor to the founder of the Australian Jewish Fertility Network. She is a mother to 3 children and is based with her husband in New York City. I'm your host, Hannah Gill, and this is Motherhood Flow.
Hi, Hannah. I'm Margo, Dr. Margo Lowy. You can call me Margo. I've been in this line of work talking about maternal ambivalence since about 2010, when I did my PhD in Sydney, Australia, and it was on the topic of maternal ambivalence. And after that, I wrote an academic book on this area, and I'll explain to you what it is in a minute. And my most recent book is this book, which is Maternal Ambivalence: The Loving Moments and Bitter Truths of Motherhood. That's my most recent book. And what it talks about maternal ambivalence. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to this and what it's about. How I got to this was, I'm a psychotherapist, and when I'm in the room with my clients, there was always what I call a symbolic empty seat left for the mother of the client. She was always involved in the discussions or in the conversation, the therapy at some level. So I began a psychotherapy practice around 2000, and then I decided that I wanted to be very present for my daughter as she finished her school, my 3rd child. So I decided that I really wanted to fulfill my dream to do a PhD. So I really felt that I wanted to do something about mothering. But as we know, the mothering market is saturated, but I wanted to find something different and a unique angle, and probably something a little bit silenced that we don't really talk about. So I found the work of a British psychoanalyst called Rosika Parker, and she talked about maternal ambivalence. And I was just so intrigued. She described it as the mother's loving and hating feelings towards her child, which was quite shocking. It took me a while to come to terms with that. Anyway, where I am now is after doing my PhD on this topic and writing an academic book. This second book now, what it talks about is maternal ambivalence as the mother's ability to express and acknowledge all her feelings. Because as mothers, we often are scared or frightened or we really neglect the difficult feelings. So my work is about encouraging mothers to learn to understand all their feelings, to realize they've got many different feelings, and to see them in the terms of and, not or, which means that we feel love and we feel bitterness. We feel compassion and we feel resentment. And we feel light feelings and we feel dark feelings. And it's really important for us as mothers to realize we have all these feelings and that they are all valuable. And I also focus on the dark, difficult feelings, because these are the feelings that we tend to neglect or kind of put in a basket together. But these feelings actually are there all our mothering feelings are there for a purpose. It's designed like this. And what these dark, difficult feelings do is they tell us about ourselves and about our children, and they teach us. So my work is about valuing these feelings. And what they do is they actually transform our mothering. And even though this sounds very paradoxical, that's what happens. And I'll give you an example. There's a mother who's in the mall with her 3 kids. It's very busy, and she says to the kids, I've just got to check where we're going, just hold on there. So the kids are standing there, she's looking at her diary, and she looks up, and one of her children has gone. She's like, and all mothers have this kind of experience in some way. So she's terrified. She holds the other 2 close to herself, and she's thinking, what happens if something's happened to my child? If someone's taken my child? If this child doesn't come back? My life's been like totally changed, and she's panicked. She doesn't know whether to scream, whether to cry, whether to call out for help, and she's paralyzed. And a minute feels like an hour. And then she looks up after 5 minutes and she sees her child happily skipping along with one of her friends. And she, of course, holds this child when she gets to the child, and she's got such feelings of extra renewed love. But at the same time, she's angry, resentful, thinking what this could have meant. But the loving feelings melt her and enable her to keep going. And these are what I refer to as melting moments. They're moments in our lives that we have very many of them with our children that really help us to keep moving on. And this is why I'm talking about the difficult feelings, because the difficult feelings, the dark feelings that she had, the resentment, the terror, the fury at her child was turned and it melted into the love. So that's really what I'm talking about in my work.
And what really inspired you and motivated you to get into this area of the work? Was it your own personal experiences as a mother? Was it professional experiences? What was the main motivation there?
Okay. It's a combination. At the moment, I've got my children have all grown up, and I'm actually a grandmother. And I suppose since I started my PhD, I've been very, very interested. I'm really interested in mothering, and I suppose it's partly at this stage of my life a way to try and understand how I mothered. And this book is also, oh, you can't really see it. I'll just move it over. This book is also something that I would have liked when I became a mother. And I think that I became a mother the first time when I was about 23 in 1980, and then the second time in 1989, and the third time in 1997. So I've almost got 3 only children. And why I think that I learned through my experience of mothering, I think I learned to value my own ambivalence. With my first child, I was very young. I was 23 years old, and I just did it. Like, I didn't really think too much about it. I was an at-home mum, and my husband traveled a lot. And in those days, before social media, what we would do is a few of us once a week, and it was a very kind of beautiful experience, was we would get about 5 or 6 of us, friends, would get together in one of our kitchens and talk about mothering and about our children. And it was very lovely. It was kind of very organic. But I didn't really think a lot about my mothering. My baby was like slept and ate, and I was lucky. And I think that I wasn't always present for him emotionally, but I just did it. And then my second child was born, and let me go back a second. I wouldn't entertain any thoughts except that this was wonderful. My child was wonderful. That's all I could absorb. I couldn't manage to think the possibility that it wasn't just wonderful. There was no bandwidth for that. And then my second child was born after a sustained period of infertility. after 7 years of trying to have him. So, of course, then I was definitely not going to go into any kind of feelings of ambivalence. It was just wonderful. This was so special. I was so happy with my two boys. It was just, I was in bliss. And after that, when I had my third child, my surprise child at the age of 41, she was a different kind of child. She wasn't going to let me get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was older. I'd been mothering for a long time. It wasn't that easy, but she really put me on the spot all the time. She questioned me. She challenged me, and she actually made me or allowed me to have these other experiences. But what really other feelings, like difficult feelings and feelings that I wouldn't have acknowledged before. But what she did make me do is she made me laugh. And so this experience, there was a lot more flow in it. And when I think about all my work, if I put it into a nutshell to add to what I already said about ambivalence, ambivalence is an ability to flow with your mothering, not to be rigid. Because if you don't flow, you're rigid, then you have expectations on yourself and about other people. If you're able to flow with it, then you actually realize that mothering, and I would have loved to know this before I had my children, to see mothering is actually a messy, interrupted, and loving experience. And it's also an experience of making mistakes and repairing them. Making mistakes and repairing them continually. And that's how mothers learn. So it was like in writing this book, particularly the last one, I've really got such a, I suppose, an organic understanding, grassroots understanding of what mothering is. And it's taken me a long time. And really, this isn't how mothering is posed or seen in the real world. It's seen as something that a mother, I think, is expected to be perfect. We all collude with this ridiculous fantasy that it should be perfect, that it needs to be perfect. It's not. It's messy, it's interrupted, and it's loving, and it's making mistakes and repairing them. So there's this fantasy that we were meant to be wonderful mothers on call 24/7, and that we're either, if we're not fully caring, then we don't care. If we're not fully selfless, we're selfish. And what I'm doing is I'm disrupting and challenging that, because I believe that mothers, sometimes we're selfish and sometimes we're selfless. And sometimes we're very caring and sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're resentful and sometimes we're not. So it's like this, what I'm trying to say is I want to make mothering realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because in no other relationship is someone expected to have these high bars. So it's really a matter of, I mean, I know about ambivalence, but it's what I want to do is I want to build up the conversation about this. And as you know, everyone as a mother has a responsibility to engage in the conversation, and every mother has a lot of contributions to make to this conversation. So I suppose my book is a way of introducing people
Mm-hmm.
to the conversation and really asking mothers to join with me in this, and to make everyone's mothering experience better, and to be curious about it, and to challenge the myths that we're all brought up with about it.
And I think that's a really refreshing viewpoint, especially in the age of social media where you only see the extremes. You either see accounts that are painting motherhood as this beautiful, wonderful, all the time experience. And then there's also accounts where it's just like motherhood is the most horrible thing I've ever experienced. And there's not a lot of middle ground there. There's not a lot of nuance. So it's very refreshing to have the idea of ambivalence and having, like you said, and not or.
That's so important.
Yeah.
That's when I say that, like lights go on with people,
Mhm.
because they really understand it. And we know, and this needs to be normalized. I mean, mothering, I mean, especially first time mothering is lonely, scary, frightening. And if sometimes people can say one thing and it can just throw a new mother off balance. It's just so difficult. So that's what I want to do. I want to normalize all the feelings and really let mothers know that it's okay to have these feelings and it's actually normal, and it's our responsibility to share this.
And do you feel like it's such a taboo topic because people are almost like ashamed of those darker emotions
Yeah.
and darker
Yes.
feelings?
Yeah. There is shame attached. There is shame attached to it, but that's also because, you're talking about social media. That's the updated version of the maternal ideal. It's because society puts such pressure on mothers, and they, yeah, mothers feel shame and they don't really know what to do with it and they get stuck in it. I just want to, one of the areas that I explore is the difference between guilt and shame. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that because I think it's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
All mothers have guilt. We all do things that we don't like, that we wish that we hadn't done, whether it's screaming at a kid, whether it's not giving a kid time, whether it's not going to a concert, whether it's not doing that after school activity, whether it's giving the child the right, it starts from the beginning, from pregnancy, actually, it starts. And the difference between guilt and shame is really important because guilt is normal feelings that we have, but feelings that we can get past, that you learn to live with them. They do come back at times. We have memories. How could I have done that? What kind of a terrible mother was I? But okay, shame is very different. Shame is when those feelings become you, when you see yourself as a terrible mother, and that's how your identity is. And I write a small story in my book about a young mother who has really feels shame all the time. And what I give the example of, when if her daughter gets sunburnt, she's a terrible mother. If the daughter eats all her breakfast, she's a good mother. If the daughter falls over, she's a bad mother. I don't like that word bad, but I'm just using it to illustrate what I say. So this mother, you can imagine, it's so difficult because she's carrying this all the time. It's not like I'm guilty that she got sunburnt, but okay, she'll be all right and I won't do it again. But it's like she's filled with this shame about herself. It becomes her identity. And she doesn't know what to do. She feels trapped and she's close to her own mother, but she actually finds something and she reads it. And what the article talks about, how you often mother the way that you were mothered. And we all know that. There's chains of, and often we don't think as a young mother about how we were mothered. We just do it. We just go and do it. We don't think about it. Anyway, this young mum read this article and it really made sense to her. So the next day, she goes to the park with her mother. I love the park. She goes to the park with her mother, and she's swinging her daughter on the swing, and the mother's there, and she's saying, "Stop it! You're swinging her so high, she's going to fall down. She's going to hurt herself." And then the young mother stops and says, "Mum, I love you. You've been a great mother to me, but now it's my turn to mother the way that I need to mother, in the way that I do." And it really helped her to lift her shame because she could see that she was mothering in the shame the way that she was. And it wasn't helping her, it was trapping her. She was trapped. And somehow she managed to release herself and to understand that she could have the guilt, but it was different from the shame. And it's so important because shame paralyzes us. And what happens is then we bring up our children in the same way. So all these, reason I'm talking about guilt and shame is it's so central to our experiences. So what I'm saying is, yeah, we all have guilt. We all think about what we've done, and that's okay. But we have to make sure that it flows, it can be flowing, and that it doesn't end up being paralyzed in shame, because then that becomes us, and that doesn't help anyone.
I'm interested. Do you think that this exists for fathers too? Do you think there's a paternal ambivalence?
Sorry?
Do you think this exists for fathers as well?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me about fathers, and yeah, I think fathers have different experience than mothers. I think that fathers probably feel the same feelings. They do. There's no question. I haven't really explored that a lot, and it sounds like that I might need to, because everyone asks that question. Um, I think that most mothers bear their children, like physically, not all, because we know these days there's different ways of having children with new technology, and there's adoptive mothers. But I think the experience of a woman giving birth, holding her child, whether she's adopted the child or it's her own child or whatever, there's something about that experience that really forms something for the mother. And I don't think it's the same as what a father does. It may not be any better or any worse, it's just different. But I think as a mother, you grow the child, whether, emotionally and usually biologically, but not always. And that child is part of you. So in a different way that it's part of the father. So whereas I think that fathers can feel ambivalence, and they can feel, of course, the the same kind of feelings, the bitterness, the loving, the resentment, the hardship, the pain, the suffering, the joy. It is different. And although not all mothers bring up their children, the statistics are that most mothers are doing most of the child rearing, and most of the tedious, hands-on, difficult, and wonderful mothering. And let's be frank, it's wonderful, but it is also sometimes very boring, very hard, relentless. We get triggered, and at home, mums, it's difficult. And when you're working, it's difficult. It's all difficult. And I suppose my work is about letting mums feel that, yeah, it is difficult, and that's really what it is. It's not it's not designed to be anything different than difficult, but I believe that it's the most difficult and the most rewarding experience. If a woman decides that that's what she wants to do. The other thing about ambivalence is it's a very misunderstood
Hmm.
term. Most people see it as something negative, or like an indifference, where an indifference is something totally different. Being indifferent means shutting off or cutting off. It's totally different from ambivalence. Ambivalence is connecting. It's connecting with your feelings. But sometimes people see it also as mixed emotions. It's not. It's that ambivalence gives power to every emotion, and every emotion is important. And it has a negative connotation, and I'm really trying to change that, because it is something that is very transformative. And the notion of just ambivalence itself is so powerful, because once again, it encourages people to think in terms of and rather than or, which reduces judgment, and it makes things more open, experiences and feelings. That's really what it's really a misunderstood and very important part of our language that's really been neglected. And I really know it needs to be part of the maternal language. It's the part that's missing.
And how do you think that partners or family members or friends can help either encourage the existence of ambivalence with mothers? How do you think they may make it worse? Like, what do you think the impacts of other people are on it?
Okay, it's very important. I think if a mother has someone supportive, it makes all the world of difference. And what I mean by supportive is not someone that tells you what to do with your child, because I really believe that the mother herself knows her child and needs to be encouraged to mother the way that she knows. I mean, often with new mothers, they might need a bit of help or support. And if they ask for it, what I make sure to say is, you know what's right for you. I might have done this with my child, and I don't know if it's right for you, but that's what I do. But I really try and encourage mothers to know themselves. I have two daughter-in-laws at the moment, and I'll be having a third one soon. And these two both have children, and I'm in awe with the way they mother. And I don't know. It's their children. I'm a loving grandmother. I spend as much time as I can with my grandchildren, but I'm not the expert on their children. I I watch them. I'm interested. I'm learning all the time. It's different practices now, and it's a wonderful experience watching them. And I think it's important for people around, for mothers to be around people that they feel energy with, that they feel supported by, not people that want to put them down. And I think that's so important. I think as mothers, we do have a kind of, usually we have a kind of an antenna. We know when someone's on our side and wants to help us. So I entreat mothers to use this antenna, and if they're not comfortable with that person or they don't feel that energy, really, you don't need it in your life, or you need to learn, you need to learn how to manage it if you decide to be around these people. And I think my idea of ambivalence, with the flow, with the non-judgment, is a very comfortable way, because if someone wants to judge you, if you can manage that, that's okay. But I think we all have to be aware that people have their own reason for judging, and mothers do not need judgment. Mothers need support. Mothers need energy. I mean, what's more important than bringing bringing up a child that is healthy and is as a child in its own right? There's no more important job.
And so what would you, people who read this book or people who want to learn more about maternal ambivalence, what would you want their biggest takeaway or lesson from the book to be?
Okay, I think there's a few of them. I think one of the main things is that we need to, whatever you do is okay. We have to normalize mother's experience, and to know what they're, to really normalize what they do, and to give them almost a gift, to reframe mothering as something that's messy and interrupted and loving, and that it's an experience of making mistakes and fixing them up, and making them and fixing them up, and that's how we learn. And that ambivalence is it's melting moments, loving moments that are transformative, and they're made up of difficulties. It's not all a rosy colored world. And as you said, the world is difficult these days, and with social media, um, it puts pressure on mothers. So someone in a podcast described my book as a compassionate companion. So that's really how I would like it to be seen. It's not a book that you need to read through from cover to cover. It's got a lot of stories in it. It's got film in it, and it's got television series in it. It's got Reese Witherspoon series in it, Little Fires Everywhere, and I've done a analysis of that, which has really helped to portray how mothers sometimes try and be perfect and try and make their world look perfect, and really it's not. There's a lot of cracks there. And in her series, Reese Witherspoon starts off life as having this wonderful image of herself, or portraying it, and by the end of the series, she actually is able to bring together all her feelings and realize that she was actually the person who began the Little Fires Everywhere. And it's a really wonderful series. So I think the other part, I see mothering and ambivalence in everything. And when I watch a series, when I watch a film, when I read a book, whatever I do, if I see a piece of art, a sculpture, I find it ambivalence everywhere. So I think it's a really, because it's it includes everything. And because it's about the end, it's very freeing. And, creativity and film and art and reading is, if I know mothers don't really have time, but if, and seeing things it's a very creative way of seeing the world. So that's the other part that's why I'm writing this book as well. In all my work, I've used film and stories to illustrate my work.
So if someone's wanting to read your book, what's the best way for them to do so?
They can go to my website, drmargolowy.com, and then they can find a book and they can get it on Amazon. Or there's also an Audible, and there's a Kindle version, and they can look me up on my website, Dr. Margo Lowy. And I'm happy if you want to. And I've got an Instagram, I've got a Facebook, so I've got all the social media. And I'm really happy if someone wants to ask me a question or to, to send me a message, direct message me on Instagram or whatever. I'm really happy to respond and really to join in this conversation.
Okay, and I will put all the links, all the resources, everything in my show notes as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hannah. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You just finished another episode of Motherhood Flow. For more, head over to thehannahgill.com or on Instagram @thehannahgill. As a reminder, this podcast is provided to you for educational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered a substitute for medical advice. Until next time, keep flowing.